Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Sunday service, aka Spiritual Sundays, aka Witch Church. Welcome. I'm sorry I missed you guys. Last week I was sick, and so my voice was like a bit scratchy and out, so I just needed to rest it. So apologies if anyone did pop by and want to see what was happening on Witch Church. Anyway, we are back now. We are back. So, hello everyone. I hope you're having a great weekend wherever you are watching this from, whether you are here live or watching the replay or whatever happens to be, whether it is another day for you, because I know there's a lot of global people in my audience. So, hello everyone. So, today I wanted to talk about, and apologies if you guys hear any like weird rumblings. That is definitely my dishwasher doing its thing. So, apologies. But today I want to talk about feminine energy, masculine energy, self-control, emotional regulation, emotional restraint. And so I've been a person on the internet for like a really long time. You wouldn't know it since I don't have a bazillion trillion followers, but I've seen the internet evolve in this really weird way where a lot of folks, for whatever reason, hello, Awaz, feel compelled to have pretty much no emotional regulation. And okay, Awaz wants to say hello. So today I did want to break that down a little bit and talk about like why do I think that is, and also just analyzing emotionality and emotional regulation in general from a kind of feminine energy, masculine energy perspective. So if you guys are new to my channel or new to my work in general, my general career and work tends to have 3 pillars that I work with people through these lenses. So one of them is magic and witchcraft. Another one is tarot and divination and mediumship, stuff like that. And then the third one is feminine energy and masculine energy, which is the most advanced work because it is the stuff that is embodied. Like there is no quick fix to it. It is the kind of slow burn, embodied vibrational shift that happens over time as we heal our stuff and change our mindset. And Awaz agrees. And what I've noticed is online, but also to some extent just in general, a lot of folks have not very much emotional regulation and like self-control capacity. And so people are easily triggered. I don't know what is going on in society that everyone is kind of very easily agitated over the most basic nothingness online. Like people tend to get so upset over reacting to something that people didn't even necessarily say. So for example, I made a post on Threads yesterday just kind of contemplating the fact that some people choose to split custody over their animals when they break up. Personally, I find it a bit strange. And the word I used on Threads was weird. I find it a bit weird that people do that. And the behavior is marked as a bit weird to me. Did I say that no one should ever do it? Should I say that everyone who does it is a freak? No. Did I say I would never date someone who does that? No. Did I say people who do that need to like be arrested? No. However, a lot of people reacted as though I had said that they were weird, that they were horrible, that they were evil, that they were mentally unwell, blah, 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 which I didn't say that. And so it's just another example of how a lot of the time these days, for whatever reason, a lot of folks are reacting to something that was not said and then just acting out, emoting, being very triggered. And I find this so interesting because what it shows, there's a few different things that it shows, right? It shows a lack of cognition, so like a lack of being able to read what is happening in the present moment. So there's not a slowing down to be like, okay, hold on, what did this person actually say? And am I reacting accurately to what the person has accurately said? There is this kind of like knee-jerk reaction, right? This impulse to being agitated, this impulse towards being offended, this impulse towards lashing out. Like if we're slightly uncomfortable or if someone has said something that we think is maybe targeting us or might be about us, or we disagree with something someone has said, a lot of people are just easily in this kind of 0 to 100 lash out mode. And I do find it very concerning when it comes to human relationships, when it comes to democracy, when it comes to societal cohesion. Because if everyone is reacting to stuff that hasn't really been said, they've just misinterpreted it and then responded as though the person said something they didn't say, we're seeing this kind of cycle of outrage, right? This cycle of increased emotionality. And there's this increased emotionality. And then the other thing is these people clearly have no ability to self-regulate and no emotional control. And so, in my opinion, the ability to self-regulate, the ability to kind of control our own emotions is one of the keys to life, in my opinion. If we can't emotionally self-regulate, if we can't self-soothe and relax ourselves when we're annoyed, hurt, pissed off, then we are basically going to be at the mercy of our emotions in our life rather than being the ones that control our emotions. And so when you are at the mercy of your emotions, your life is going to be topsy-turvy, right? Every little drama is going to be something that potentially derails your day or derails your life. I've seen it happen, right? Where people will get derailed by a ton of little things, right? I talked about this in my podcast somewhat recently, where a lot of folks have no focus and they will be so distracted by the noise of life, whether that's petty arguments, whether that's doom scrolling, whether that is just like stupid shit, whether it's online or in your social groups or whatever. People are so distracted by putting their energy in all of these silly places, arguing online, whatever it happens to be. And when we are allowing our emotions to just kind of rule our behavior and we are reactive rather than responsive, notice the difference. Reactive means the emotion kind of drags us somewhere, and then responsive means that we choose where we go. And so, how do we relate all of this to feminine and masculine energy? Some of you guys might be wondering. So, whenever we have our emotions controlling us and we don't have our self-contained presence, we are just a mess. That basically means that we have no healthy masculine energy for ourselves and our unhealthy feminine energy is going crazy. And let me just backtrack a little bit to explain what I mean by this. So feminine energy and masculine energy both are great. We all have both. I don't care what gender or sex you are. Everyone has both, and we both need both in a healthy way to lead healthy, happy lives, in my opinion. There might be a bit of a different balance for all of us. For some of us, it might be exactly 50-50. For some of us, we might be more predominantly in our feminine energy. For some of us, we might be more predominantly in our masculine energy. Whatever, it's all good. But we all do need both, regardless, again, of our sexuality, gender, etc. And so masculine energy is the stuff that puts our food on the table, gets money in our bank account. We're able to create order and structure and containment and build a life for ourselves, right? We need that self-control. We need that discipline. All of us need that. If we don't have that, good luck getting a job, keeping a job, etc. Right? Feminine energy, which again we all also need, is much more about presence, being, not necessarily needing to do anything, but just basking in the sensory bounty of this beautiful thing called life, right? Enjoying the lovely incense, slowing down at the restaurant, enjoying and savoring every little bite of food. All of that is a healthy feminine energy. We are taking things in. We are experiencing. And I would really, for this reason, align things like mediumship and divination and even magical skills with this particular type of feminine energy, right? Because we're receiving. We are instruments of energy. We are noticers, barometers of energy. It's a super huge skill I talk about in my work with my students. So that's really important. I'm not demonizing feminine energy at all. However, when people are ruled by their emotions to the extent that they can't self-control and self-regulate, what they're being ruled by is an unhealthy, wounded feminine energy. I said my cat is like warbling in the background, clearly grumpy. I'm not paying attention to her right now. So she comes to say hello. We'll see. But this being ruled by emotion is something that really doesn't serve us. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't feel emotion. We all should. It's really important to be in touch with our emotions. And actually, healthy feminine energy allows us to notice in the present moment, what emotion am I feeling right now in response to what just happened, right? And having this kind of immediate understanding of what our emotion is in a certain situation can actually help us be safe, right? Because if we have this delayed reaction of our emotion, let's say we have a weird experience with someone, and then we realize 2 days later, oh, that was kind of strange, right? It's a lot better if we are in touch with our healthy feminine energy and notice that in the moment so that we can get ourselves out of the situation sooner rather than later, right? So I'm not saying that emotion is bad, not at all. Rather, it's important to be able to notice what we're feeling, to untangle it, because sometimes it can be really overwhelming. It can be this like tangled mess where we don't really know what we're feeling. We're just feeling overwhelmed. And so being able to slow down, stretch our feelings out and say, okay, I'm feeling ABC because of XYZ. And really being able to understand it is really important. Being able to analyze it, being able to break it apart and understand, okay, what is this feeling? Where in my body do I feel it? Why do I feel it? What does it mean? What do I do about it? And so, oh, hello, the more people that are watching. Nice to see you guys here. Feel free to say hello in the chat if you want to, no pressure. And what I'm noticing is a lot of folks are just going from 0 to 100, right? They're not taking the time to untangle, okay, why am I feeling emotionally activated? What am I even feeling right now? And instead, hello, Awas, instead of taking that slow down time to self-understand, self-reflect, people will just kind of jump to self-defense, even when they haven't been attacked or anything like that, right? And so this to me shows a lack of containment. It shows a lack of healthy masculine energy, because it is the healthy masculine energy where we can contain our emotions. If all of us are just like making our emotions everyone else's problem all the time, that means that we are just kind of overflowing and we don't know how to contain ourselves. I would much rather be really targeted and self-aware when I'm sharing my emotions with somebody. You know, I might say, hey, when you said ABC, I felt XYZ. I don't really want to feel that way. I want to feel ABC instead. What can we do about it? I think I might feel blah, blah, blah if you blah, blah, blah. That is a much more contained, self-aware way to communicate rather than just lashing out at people. And we see this a lot in relationships. I know I've kind of been talking about it in terms of online conversations a lot, but even in relationships, like people nag each other, people criticize each other. All of that is this kind of unbridled emotionality, right? And it really isn't healthy for anyone. It just really isn't. And so we need the healthy masculine energy to contain ourselves, and we need the healthy feminine energy to understand, what am I even feeling, right? To be able to break down, to respond, not react, right? Because the reacting, the knee-jerk reaction, often it's an overreaction. And it's often not even based on like facts or reality. It's just someone who needs to just spill over for whatever reason. I'm just going to take some water. And so healthy masculine energy enables us to contain ourselves and direct ourselves towards wherever it is that we want to be going. I would relate this to the Chariot card in the tarot, right? Having a roadmap, knowing where we're going, staying on point. And interestingly, that Chariot card has this kind of yin and yang element to it, right? The masculine and feminine sphinxes in the front of that card. Very interesting, right? And the chaotic feminine energy that I see online a lot, this uninhibited, completely rageful, really intense, just excess, right? It's like this excess of vitriol, this excess. People don't even really take time to think like, who am I talking to? Why am I talking to them that way? It's just this uncontrolled emotional like vomit that they're just doing everywhere. And it's become so normalized online that I do find it kind of concerning. And I have seen it seep into real life as well. And so if we're looking at this from a feminine energy, masculine energy perspective, like what is going on is these people are in their wounded feminine and they're just like splurging everywhere without really any self-control. And so whenever I see people doing this, like that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind. I'm like, wow, these people have no self-control at all. They're just spewing their things everywhere at everyone indiscriminately. And it is such an energy sink to kind of go back to my previous podcast episode about focus and signal versus noise, right? And so if this life is beautiful and precious, shouldn't we maybe want to work on our self-control skills and self-regulation skills and devote our time, attention, energy to things that are good for us, even if it's resting, sleeping in, taking a bath, reading a book, doing dishes, cooking, going on a walk, going to the gym, calling your friends, I don't know, like whatever it happens to be. If our life is finite, shouldn't we want to spend most of it doing things that light us up? Doing things that bring us joy, potentially even doing things that heal us and soothe us. But what I have noticed is so many people are so emotional. And it's not emotional in this way where they know that they have big feelings and then they know why and they know how to describe it. It's more this like excess, and I've seen this in men as well, interestingly. It's not just women doing this. This excess of emotion that they just spew kind of without regard for others, without thought, without any consideration of, okay, is this the appropriate reaction? And also what response am I going to get? And what I see as well with this is a lot of people who are not taking responsibility for their emotional outbursts. And that, again, to me, shows a lack of healthy masculine energy. And the healthy masculine energy is what contains us. We all need it. I would not have an apartment if I did not have healthy masculine energy, at least in some kind of capacity. And the same is true for you guys, right? You would not be able to hold down a job, get your groceries, get your taxes paid, all of that stuff if you did not have healthy masculine energy. We all have, hopefully, at least some of that somewhere. And the healthy feminine energy is, again, about just the beingness, being able to feel, being able to receive, being able to notice. And all of those are really, really important skills. But the outburst is just not healthy. And I do see it more normalized in society than I would like to see it, right? And so why does this matter, right? Why does this matter? So it is something to notice in yourself and also in other people, right? So if you are someone who is so easily ruled by your emotions, if you are someone who is, oh, hi, Bella. If you are someone who is prone to, let's say, outbursts of emotion where you can't control yourself, that is something to know about yourself and work on. You know, whether that is writing the text to that person in your notes app, or sleeping on it for 24 hours before you decide to click send. That could be one way. It could also just be logging off of Threads or X or any other app where you're just like arguing with people in the comment section. It could be deciding not to doom scroll. It could be, I don't know, like having a weekend where you don't go on the internet at all. Like whatever it happens to be that would be of service to you to kind of keep yourself regulated. Right? Because it is really important for all of us to know, okay, what are my triggers? What does tend to annoy me? What does tend to make me go off? Personally, I don't actually think I have anything like that. I used to. But if you are someone who has these kind of high emotional outbursts, it's something to kind of look at in yourself, right? Because if someone can trigger you to doing that, what it basically means is you don't have that self-regulation capacity. You don't have the self-control capacity that would actually serve you better to be able to kind of stay above it. Which isn't to say don't react, but to react intentionally, right? In a way that is thought out, where you are controlling your emotion, where you are controlling what you say, rather than just saying random shit. And I would relate this in some ways too to the Devil Tarot card, which is the bad coping habits card, where we are kind of controlled by something. We're controlled by a vice. Right. And in this case, the example I'm talking about today, that vice would be like the lack of emotional regulation, because it can feel really good to go off on somebody. You know, it can feel like, oh, we got this sense of moral superiority. That can feel like really nice for our ego. But is that healthy? Like, not really. Not really. And yeah, someone might deserve being told off. And sometimes that might be the thing to do, but it should be a choice. It should be intentional. It shouldn't be something that we don't have control over. As grown adults, we should all ideally want to have a reasonable amount of self-control. We don't want to be ruled by our vices, our high, crazy emotional states, whatever that happens to be, whatever gets you to that place. It's really, really important for all of us to have a good understanding of what those things are for us. And it can be anything. It can be impulse purchases. It can be sex addiction. It can be getting into kind of bad relationships and like the same arguments with your family a million times in a row. Like these things that kind of suck you in, that you don't feel like you have self-control. Those are the things to really work on. And those are the things that are ruled by the devil card. But instead of the devil card, I don't have my tarot in front of me right now. I should have brought it, but that's okay. Instead of being ruled by the devil card, it's much better to have an approach like the Chariot, which is like, okay, where are we going? How can we get there? What do we need to do to get there? What is the balance of masculine and feminine energy that we need to do to get there? And notice that these are both odd number cards. Odd numbers tend to be conflict. Something's a little bit challenging. It's not balanced, and we need to act, right? Odd numbers are the action kind of yang, masculine numbers, right? So they're both, all right, how do we get out of the situation? How do we move? How do we shake ourselves free of this, right? Really, really important stuff. And so I know that these concepts of masculine energy and feminine energy can be, even in and of themselves, a little bit triggering to people and a little bit ephemeral, or like feel a little bit vague. But they are very useful archetypes, and they are archetypes that exist in pretty much all cultures. It's like very interesting that it's pretty consistent, actually, like cross-culturally. Like we look at like Western mythology and folklore and all of that. It's kind of same. And I'm reading a lot about Ayurveda right now, and it's kind of like same, to be honest, which is really, really cool. That these energetic archetypes have been noticed and described really similarly kind of worldwide, which is really, really neat. So I do think there is something to these energies, even if the phrasing maybe doesn't sit 100% well with people, but I really do think there is something to all of this, right? And so it's really interesting, right? Because I think in the modern world, a lot of women are in masculine energy for work. There's this whole like girl boss thing, which I think is totally fine. I think it's great. Like I'm an entrepreneur. You guys know this. Like I think that's really important. I think women achieving is so wonderful and it's amazing. It's not something I would ever want to tell anyone to not do. I'm like, I'm doing it too. So like, let's all do it. Let's all win. Let's all create our dreams. Let's all like make businesses. Let's all be successful. Let's all do that. And that is all a very masculine energy thing, which is great. At the same time, I do find sometimes this energy can also manifest in a way where people want to control other people. And that is a shadow side of masculine energy. And I would say that's an unhealthy masculine energy, where people want to micromanage other people, control other people. I'll use an example. So for instance, as you guys may or may not know, I'm vegan. I've been vegan for 15 years. At the same time, I don't think I've really ever dated a vegan, you know. I like to eat at vegan restaurants when I go out, but I'm not going to force anyone I'm with to eat any kind of way. Like if they choose to do that, then that's wonderful. And actually it would probably make me feel happier, because then it's like not anywhere in my vicinity. However, I'm never going to be like, in order to go out with me, you need to become a vegan. I would never say that to anybody, like ever. Like some people have, but that was their own free will. And I did not pressure them in any way or suggest it in any way, right? And so to use this example, if I had said you must become a vegan in order to go out with me, that would be unhealthy masculine energy, because that is controlling someone else. And I don't condone that. I don't condone that. And I do see a lot of that, right? And in my work, I do a lot of work with folks around relationships and dating. That's kind of everyone's favorite topic. And a lot of the time, it's so interesting that a lot of people have this kind of like controlling element. Like this is like not necessarily true with most of my clients, but I have noticed it over the years doing this work professionally for, God, I don't even know how long, at least 10 years, I have kind of noticed that a lot of people have to kind of be convinced out of making their partner or making their love interest act a certain way or do a certain thing. And so there has to be, I think, to balance out this healthy masculine energy of girl boss, make a business, be successful, etc. That is really amazing. Love it. But sometimes it just spills over to wanting to control everything and micromanage everyone. And I don't think that's exactly the healthiest thing ever. And I do see also some of that unhealthy controlling masculine energy online where everyone wants everyone else to think the exact same way that they do, which I don't love that. You know, if you've ever posted an opinion online and had someone like disagree with you and call you names, like you're a Nazi because you don't agree with me, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that you're also encountering an unhealthy masculine energy there too, because that is controlling. That is someone trying to control how you feel rather than asking, hey, I really don't agree with you. Like, let's talk this out. Why do you feel that way? Let me share why I feel the way I feel, right? And so it is so interesting to notice these energies just swirling around, right? But ultimately, healthy masculine and healthy feminine energy are both about personal sovereignty and self-control, and also making space for other people to have their own personal sovereignty and their own way of life. We're not all compatible on this world. That's okay. I'm fine with that personally. And I don't really need or want to change anybody. Like, obviously, I work as a coach, so that is going to involve giving people advice, but that's because they've asked me to. Like, I'm not going to be micromanaging all these random strangers. Otherwise, I just don't have the time or the interest. And I don't really need to convert anybody, right? And so it's a really common spiritual teaching in many different traditions to basically say, like, focus on your own page. Like, it's do the inner work. Like, if you feel called to criticize other people about blah, 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 it's really important to also turn that lens back on yourself and be like, okay, this thing I'm criticizing others for, is this something I'm also doing? It's a constant thing. And that's something I'm also trying to be aware of too, right? And sometimes when something annoys us about other folks, that's also something that can annoy us about ourselves. Not always, but sometimes, right? And so that inner work of self-control, self-mastery, and also being able to notice what is going on with us emotionally is really, really important. Because if we do have, let's say, a strong emotion, if we are really pissed off, personally, I think a much better place to kind of put that energy, we could do ritual. We could go to the gym. We could go for a run. We could write a poem. We could make art. We could do all of these different things to just like shake it out of our system and to create something with that energy, right? Rather than, let's say, direct that towards someone else, like rudely, which is why personally, like, I don't engage in any of these like witch war things on the internet. And like, I know that my follower numbers would go up if I did engage in that, but I just don't, it doesn't really resonate with me. Like, that's not what I want my content to be about. And that's not how I want to engage. And I don't want to subject my people to that. Like, you guys don't care. I don't care. And yeah, it would increase my numbers if I did engage in some kind of social media war, but I want to opt out. I opt out of that. And it's disturbing to me because like a lot of people I do really like online sometimes do engage in these social media wars, sometimes justified, sometimes not. And I think that there has to be another way. Okay, Bella is asking, what are some of your thoughts on decentralizing men? Is this a healthy thing to do in the realm of masculine and feminine energy? I would say I'm totally good with that, actually. And I think, okay, so the place that this comes from, I'm really curious, like, what is inspiring this to be on your mind? If you feel comfortable sharing, I would love to know. But just generally, I find that movement has kind of come up because a lot of women who date men, like regardless of their sexuality, etc., a lot of women who date men, like they kind of put their life on hold for men. And a lot of women who date men will always be like checking their phone, like, oh my God, did he text me? Oh my God. And will always be like, I have to leave my Friday night free just in case he texts me. And like they kind of leave these gaps of like, just in case, you know what I mean? And I don't believe in doing that at all. So I'm single, I'm dating, I'm doing the thing. And so one of the ways that I decenter men, even though I love men, is all of the people who I'm talking to are in my archived folder on WhatsApp, which is the texting app that I prefer to use. And so you know what I mean? So it's not going to be like this constant thing where I'm always checking my phone to be like, what has so-and-so said today? Like, ooh, did so-and-so text me? Like, if they do, great. If they don't, great. And I leave it in my archived so that it's not always top of my mind, right? And the people who want my attention will be hollering at me, and the ones who don't will not. And that's normal, right? But I'm not like twiddling my thumbs like, oh my God, I need to leave my weekends free just in case so-and-so asks me out. Like, I don't live that way. I don't think anyone should live that way. Like, I'm going to make my own plans. And if someone else fits into it on a time that we're both mutually free, then that's wonderful. And I think one thing that women can learn from men, and again, I'm speaking really generally and kind of like with a broad brush, so this isn't going to be applicable to everybody, but I think it's a pretty general rule. I think women can learn from men like a self-focus. Men know how to focus on themselves. Men know how to prioritize themselves. Men know how to put themselves at the number one top of their list of who do I need to make happy today? It's, they are going to prioritize their sports, their friends, their work. And a lot of women, the second that they like a guy, they're going to put all of their shit on hold, on the off chance that Bob texts them or whatever. And I think women can learn from the way that men are moving in terms of that, because it shows a self-love, and some might say selfishness, but I think the way a lot of men move, it shows a healthy self-love. Most of them are not waiting around for women to text them, And so I think it's really, really important if you're a woman dating men to be putting yourself first and foremost, and asking yourself not, does he like me, but do I like him? And does he even fit into my life, my lifestyle? I think a lot of women, they see a few like really nice things about a guy, and then they will kind of fill in the blanks of what the fantasy is. Of like, oh, he's attractive, he's fit, he's got a good job, he's this, he's that, he's like a gentleman. And then they fill in the gaps of like what they think he is, of this fantasy. But it's like, if it's only been on 1 date or 2 dates, you literally don't know him. He's literally a stranger. Like, he could be putting on a facade. No one knows at that stage. And so filling in the blanks and making this fantasy doesn't make any sense. And it often sets women up for disappointment. And so what I want women to stop doing who are dating men is to just like stop fantasizing, live in the present moment, live in reality, and realize that you literally don't know this man. If you've met him once, I don't care if you've been talking on text for like a month, don't care. Like, you've met him once, and all you know is that one span of hours. And I think a lot of women will fantasize and then base their life around that fantasy, right? And I just don't think that's the way. I don't think that's the way. And so what I want to see is more women putting themselves first, more women prioritizing themselves. It's like, if you have yoga booked at 11 a.m. on a Saturday and Bob asks you out for brunch at 11 a.m., don't cancel your yoga. Like, be like, I am free for brunch after yoga at like, I don't know, 1 or something. Don't cancel your shit for a man. I strongly believe that. Right. And so I think really when people talk about decentralizing men, or when women talk about decentralizing men, what they're really trying to get at is learning how to center themselves. That's kind of my opinion on it. Let's see. Bella says, someone had suggested that to you because you're always filling up your time with other people. Totally. And are those other people usually men, or is it like also platonic and friendship based? It sounds like you might need a hermit era, Bella, to bring it back to tarot. Because it's true, right? Like, whether we are decentering friends or decentering dating or decentering whatever, like, if all of that stuff pops up, wonderful, we love it. But a lot of folks like have forgotten how to center themselves. And when we center ourselves, we have this anchor. and we're grounded. And then we know what is the difference between us and what we want, and then other people. And being able to have that separation is actually, I think, really, really important. Because then if not, we just like end up flitting around everywhere like a leaf in the wind. And then we end up in a situation where it's like, hold on, how did I get here? Is this really resonant with me? And oftentimes the case is going to be, no, how the fuck did I get here? You know what I mean? And then my question to you, Bella, too, and whoever else this resonates with, is like, if you're spending so much time with other people, are you also spending that same amount of time on yourself, for yourself, by yourself? Even if it's like a nice forest walk or something like that, just to clear your head and just get back in touch with yourself. Because if we are constantly in this space of responding to other people, and we're using other people as the kind of baseline, then our sense of self and our own anchor is not going to be as strong. It's going to be like dragged around in the ocean. And we want our anchor to be like strong roots, like a tree. You know, that to me is important to figure out, okay, who am I? What do I want out of life? What are my boundaries? And Bella, you're in your 20s, right? And so that is the age where people are figuring out, who am I? What is my identity? What do I like? What do I not like? What feels good? What doesn't feel good? And actually in your 20s, like spending time with other people, that is the appropriate developmental stage, actually, not to sound like super clinical, but that is the time that we all do that. And I'm sure everyone listening, whether live or on the replay, who is either in their 20s or remembers their 20s, like that is kind of the time to like be a social butterfly and like figure out, where do I fit in? What resonates? What doesn't? And so in some ways, that's actually kind of a healthy thing to be doing. But if you're noticing that you don't feel grounded and you don't feel anchored in yourself, then that's when you can kind of like recalibrate and be like, okay, hold on. I need to take a step back. I need to take a, Virgo season, which is coming up, which is associated with the Hermit Tarot card. It's like, maybe we need to take a Hermit season, at least for Virgo season. Makes sense. Just kind of like reevaluate. And we are, I think, still in Mercury retrograde, which is a time of reflection, looking back, looking at, okay, what have we been doing? Is it working? And if it's not working, making some adjustments. Yeah. And to bring it back to masculine and feminine energy, if we're always kind of giving our energy indiscriminately to others, interestingly, that is, I would say, also has the capacity to be an unhealthy masculine energy, because then we're overgiving. Giving is masculine energy, at least in the way that I frame it. And overgiving, I would say, is an unhealthy masculine energy. Because then you're overdoing, overgiving, and then you don't have any left for yourself often, which, can be a lack of containment, a lack of self-control, a lack of self-mastery, to know kind of when to stop and to know what your own limitations are. But as long as you're kind of experimenting and figuring out, okay, what are my limitations? When do I need to stop? Whether it's another glass of wine or another plan with whoever friend or whatever date, like knowing what your limits are is really, really important. And it's something that we often learn trial and error. Right. And that self-containment is the healthy masculine energy, which is interesting. Yeah, but you bring up something really interesting, though, Bella, this concept of decentering men. Bella says 4 of Cups energy. Yeah, absolutely. Because more is not always better. Sometimes we only need the 3 cups. We don't need the 4th, And so I do think that the whole decentering men movement, what it really is about relearning to center the self, which a lot of women like have forgotten how to do. There's like socialization, there's culture, there's upbringing, there's like all these different factors that I think lead a lot of women to want to be of service to other people and to help and to give and to be generous. And interestingly, that's also a masculine energy trait, but it can be overdone. And when it's overdone, that's unhealthy masculine. And so as a way of kind of relearning healthy masculine energy and healthy feminine energy, it's like learning what is that balance between giving and receiving. You know what I mean? Because we can't really like if we've got an empty cup, we can no longer really give. We need to know like what are our limitations, and also what do we need. It doesn't make us bad to want something from other people. It doesn't make us bad to want to receive. That is not like a bad thing. And I think a lot of women feel a lot of shame for receiving care or pampering or even just free time where they're not really worried about anyone other than themselves. And so if that concept of decentering men can help some women who date men get back to themselves, then I'm totally good with that. I don't think you need to decenter men in order to, as a phrase, like get back to yourself. But even that phrase decentering men, it implies that the man is like the main point of life, which it isn't. Like we should always kind of be the main point of our own life and following our own dreams and visions and focusing on ourselves and knowing who we are and what we want. And when we all are able to do that, in my opinion, that's when we have the best relationships with other people. And when other people are also able to do that, then that's when those relationships are the best, because both parties can trust each other's yes. Both parties can trust each other's no. Both parties are operating from healthy masculine and healthy feminine, a healthy give and take. Everyone knows what everyone's boundaries and capacities are, and trust that that's going to be communicated. Because sometimes when we overgive, that can lead to feelings of resentment. And I see that a lot. And also mistreatment and being taken advantage of, which we don't love that. We do not love that. I don't want anyone to be taken advantage of. But it is interesting that movement has been gaining a lot of steam online, for sure. And bringing that topic back to the topic of this moment today on like self-control and self-regulation, I think some women need that phrase, that framework of decentering men, because they are so unable to self-regulate and self-control. And they can't like hold themselves back and like sit on their hands and like not text the guy or not be keeping their entire schedule free on the off chance that Bob is free, and so they have to like have this extreme like, thing in order to increase their capacity for self-control around men, is kind of how I see it, which is legit. If that's where you're at, I get it. Totally get it. But ideally, I would say if you are a woman who wants to date men, ideally, we should be able to hold our boundaries and have like moments where we prioritize ourselves and put ourselves as the number one person in our life at all times. We should be able to do that and also coexist with men, in my opinion. It can take some time to learn how to do that, though. Like if women are so used to making the man kind of number one above themselves, even, which I do see a lot of. It's a thing. And so for anyone who's listening to this, like if that is something you find yourself doing, we can relate to that in a self-control kind of way. Right. And like triple texting a guy who has not texted you, sit on your hands, like put him in archived. The self-control to not like constantly push something forward, I think is really, really important. That's just my opinion. But it has served me very well, and it's served the people I work with very well. So I'm sharing it with y'all. Yeah, it's interesting to me how many women will allow a man they literally just met and don't know, to like completely derail their day, their life path, their values, their goals, their weekend plans, their vision, etc. And so like right size it, right size him. You don't know him. You can text back, say yes to a plan, but we don't need to be rescheduling our entire girls trip weekend because Bob is free. Bob can be free later when we're also free. And so it's so important to stay true to who we are and not just like be so mercurial and ungrounded that we're going to shift with the wind of Bob. And I don't know who Bob is. He's just like a random stand-in for whatever dude that people are vibing with these days. But it is important, Bella. I'm glad you brought this up, because a lot of people ask me, like, so what is the point of masculine and feminine energy? Like, why should I care? How does this impact my life? And this is exactly how it impacts people's life, right? People will allow, and I started this live stream by talking about crazy people on the internet babbling and talking shit at everybody. And that form of lack of emotional regulation, that form of a lack of emotional self-control. But we can also see this in the example that Bella's brought up, right? Where people also have a similar lack of emotional self-regulation, a lack of emotional self-control when it comes to dating, when it comes to saying like yes and dropping your plans for someone that you literally don't know. That's also a lack of self-control in a way, rather than being like, sorry, I have plans with my mom, or like, I have yoga plans, or like whatever it is. Or even if it's like you were looking forward to taking a bath and reading a book that night, that counts as a plan. You don't need to reschedule your bath, chill, relax night because Bob texts you at 10 p.m. Like, no. And so that groundedness and the emotional regulation is super important in all areas of life. It's not just like people arguing on the internet. It also shows up like in dating in this type of way, right? And it's just important. It's important. Does anyone else have any like thoughts or questions on that, or want to bring anything up around this? Because I do think the decentering men thing, as Bella has brought up, I really do think it is a reaction to a lot of women's lack of self-control around a guy they're interested in. And like a lot of women love love and are so ready for love. And like, I get that. Like, me too. I love it. I love love. I think it's beautiful. And we also need to remember ourselves. We need to remember reality, staying very grounded and rooted in reality and not going off into fantasy land. So feel the feelings, enjoy it, have fun with the crushes, and don't allow that to just completely allow you to throw the baby out with the bathwater of your own life. At least that's my opinion. Self-control, emotional regulation, pacing, all of this stuff is really important. It doesn't have to be this instant gratification all the time. You know, I started this live stream by talking about people online, like instantly like needing to react and respond and to like take a shit on someone on Threads or on X or whatever, and just like needed to say that thing and be mean. And we can relate that same thing to real life. Like, do you need to always be so spontaneous and instant gratification? Can you not slow things down and titrate them? Be a little bit more regulated. Take your time getting to know someone, getting to know yourself as well. All of that stuff is really, really important. And I do think a nice balance of healthy masculine energy and healthy feminine energy really benefits all of us, right? And a lot of the time where one of those energies is unhealthy, the other side will also be unhealthy. So when you see unhealthy masculine energy, you'll also usually will see unhealthy feminine energy and vice versa. And usually when people have a healthy relationship to one, often they will have a healthy relationship to the other, but not always. So it's a really interesting framework. It makes sense to me. Do we have any other thoughts, questions, feelings around this topic, self-regulation? And it's interesting, right? Because a lot of us on this channel are interested in magic and spirituality and all of this. And it's like, if you can't control yourself, if you can't control your emotions, how are you going to control the direction that your life goes? And also, how are you going to control your own magic? Magic it works via focus. It works via clear intention. It works via, it might be intuitive. It might be a kind of spontaneous ritual, but it follows an intention. It follows a particular track, right? It isn't completely unbridled, right? And so it's important. Self-regulation, you guys. It's important. And so for anyone who is struggling with self-regulation, my advice for that would be, come up with what you're going to do when you're feeling unregulated. How can you self-soothe? Are you going to open up your journal and just free write? Are you going to write a poem? Are you going to go for a run? Are you going to go to the gym and like lift some weights and grunt a lot and listen to loud music? Like, what are you going to do to kind of discharge that energy? Because oftentimes, like, that is not energy that we necessarily want to be directing into spell work or magical work. Like oftentimes it isn't. It's just a stupid emotion. It's a passing trigger, right? And whenever we're triggered by whatever causes us to feel a lack of self-control, I would say that information as well is a really important data point. And that data point is a gift because it shows us, okay, where do we still have work to do? Where are we still wounded a little bit? Where do we have room to heal and soothe ourselves a little bit? Are we afraid that this person is accurate with what they're saying? And what are we going to do about this heightened emotion? Again, maybe it's singing along to some loud music. Maybe it is going for a run. Maybe it's scribbling on a piece of paper, whatever it may be, making art. How are you going to channel that emotion so that it doesn't control you? It's important. It's important. And I'm not saying that emotion is bad. It's not. But it's like, what do we do with that? And do we allow the emotion to control us, or do we control the emotion? Hopefully, we're all adults. And a sign of adulthood is being able to self-control our emotions. You know who doesn't control their emotions? Children. And I don't think anyone here is a child. At least I hope not, because that's not what my channel's about. This is not a child education channel, okay? And so if we're adults, like, we really should have our shit under control, right? I don't have time for people who are like, you made me do this, you made me act this way, you know, you blah, 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 blah. No, we're adults. We get to choose how we react, okay? That is just how it is. And a lot of people don't want to take responsibility for their own reactions and their own responses. However, life will be a lot better when we do learn how to do this, you know, as uncomfortable as it may be. All right, y'all. Any questions, thoughts, feelings? I'm also, I haven't really announced this properly yet, but I'm going to be hopefully starting a feminine energy boot camp on Lionsgate Portal on August 8th. So it's going to be Friday nights, and I think I'm making it available one-on-one or in a group setting, as I see a lot of women struggling with this, and I really want to help everyone level up and have happier lives. And so the curriculum is going to be decided based on what is present for people. And so if folks are really interested in self-worth and body love and body appreciation and self-esteem and stuff like that, then that's largely what we'll talk about. And if people are interested in raising their standards in a dating context, then we'll talk about that. But I'm thinking 6 weeks starting at the Lionsgate Portal, Friday nights Eastern Time. So if anyone is interested in that, whether the one-on-one component, if your life is just bonkers and you really need support around that, then we'll be doing that. But if you do want a group experience, then we'll be doing that too. So I'll probably share the link for that shortly, I think tomorrow actually. So if you're watching this like Monday or Tuesday onwards, it will be in the description of this video. And if you do have any questions about that, or maybe you're interested in attending the Feminine Energy Bootcamp, please hit me up, ceo@sabrinamscott.com. And there's also going to be like a little contact form on my website as well, sabrinamscott.com. So just do the contact form if that is a bit easier for you. And hopefully I'll chat with you guys there. So thank you so much for spending some of your Sunday with me. Thank you for attending Sunday service, talking about masculine energy, feminine energy, and self-regulation. Very important topics. Hopefully you guys have found this interesting. And if there are any topics you would love to see me talk about, please let me know. If you are someone who is interested in diving deeper into feminine energy, I actually do have a mega course on this, Feminine Energy Without Bullshit, which is like 20 plus hours of video content on this and specific lessons, as well as 100 plus pages of worksheets. So something to check out and ask me about, or just grab on my website if you are someone who just is really interested in this topic of feminine energy, masculine energy. How can you work with this in your own life, and you're really not interested in one-on-one or group coaching? That self-study course is also available to you. All right, y'all, have a wonderful weekend. That is it from me for now. And I'll catch you guys next week, but also on the 1st, because we're going to be doing tarot for the month ahead on August 1st. All right, you guys, take care. Talk to you soon. Bye.